Hello and welcome to all. From a driver destroying cars while parking, to an angry wife getting back at her husband, to some clumsy employees when surveillance cameras are placed in the right place, this is what happens. Here are 10 people who crossed the line without knowing they were being filmed. Let's start right away with this sequence where this driver was driving his Porsche Taycan, a car worth almost $130,000. He was visiting a friend to show him his new Jewel. The new owner, who was not yet used to his new car, had trouble parking on the steep hill. Worse, while thinking of pressing the brake, the man accidentally pressed the gas pedal. Cars of this type start at the quarter turn and in a few fractions of seconds. As a result, the car ran straight into another car parked across the street, destroyed it, and ended up on top of another car parked down the street. The driver, who wanted to show off a shiny new Porsche to his friend, ended up with a piece of junk in the blink of an eye. These damages must have been reimbursed by the insurance, and being rich, he certainly took care of the other broken cars. In any case, it is sure that the next time, he will come by cab. As usual, the man you see here was coming back from a party and was looking for a place to park his car. So far so good. But when we are a little excited, it happens that we lose a little of our visual faculties. And this is what happened to this driver. While trying to park his car in the parking lot, the man found no better place than an already occupied space. He drove straight into the parked car, causing it to fall into a ditch and denting two other cars that were next to it. And because he wanted to park properly, the man decided to back up to get into his spot properly. Again, by pressing too hard on the gas pedal, the drunk driver crashed into the wall behind, and completely destroyed it. The car ended up crushed, the wall in pieces, the driver very shaken and certainly injured. But at least he managed to park his car the way he wanted to. In 2008, 1732 passengers and 671 crew members were aboard the famous liner Pacific Sun. The holidaymakers were on an overnight trip and were expected to arrive in port by daybreak. When they were about 650 kilometers north of New Zealand, they were hit by a very violent storm. The travelers were surprised by the movement of the waves of more than 8 meters height, pushed by 50 knots winds. Although on the video surveillance images, the situation looked rather funny, as the passengers and the furniture started to waltz with the rhythm of the waves, in reality, it was much more serious. 42 passengers were injured as a result of this violent storm, and several of them hit their heads on pillars. Fortunately, the passengers were calmed down a few hours later, and arrived at their destination safe and sound. To make them forget this bad crossing, they were offered a 25% discount on a future cruise by P&O, which owns the Pacific Sun. But they must want to. Now, look at these two employees. You can see them there at their posts, ready to unload a cargo truck, carrying dozens of crates of beer. It's a perfectly normal thing for them to do. But on this day, watch out, something is a little different. The truck has a heavy load, so it has to be handled with care. When the two men tried to pull the cargo elevator a little hard, the huge mountain of beer crates fell to the ground in no time. The hundreds of bottles ended up exploded and emptied, in front of the shocked eyes of the two employees. The worry is that they risk a lot because their employer saw everything. They were filmed by the surveillance cameras. In the worst case, these poor men will be fired for serious misconduct, and in the best case, they will pay for the damages. But if they find it difficult to accept this solution, they can always forget this misadventure with the few bottles of beer that remained intact in the truck. In the West Midlands of England, two hooded men were pacing in front of a Mercedes, which was parked in front of its owner's garage. The two men had a very specific objective: to steal the luxury car, without needing the keys, by applying what is called relay theft. To do this, the thieves had to use two boxes. One of the two thieves was close to the garage door to capture the signal emitted by the car key, while the second one, equipped with the second box, was waiting in front of the car, for the signal to be transmitted. As soon as the operation was completed, the car could be opened. All that was left for the thieves to do was to start the car and drive away with it. They just forgot one little detail. While they were carrying out their crime, the two men had been filmed. And these videos will, for sure, allow the police to find them and send them to jail. For the moment, the two thieves have not yet been found. While the police are doing everything in their power to get their hands on them, they are driving around and enjoying, while they still can, their little luxury booty. A few years ago, in the city of Ceilândia in Brazil, a pregnant woman was having a perfect love affair with her husband, or so she thought. One day, while searching her husband's phone, the young woman learned that he was having an extramarital affair with another woman. So, to get even, she decided to go to his place of work, where his car was parked, and started to destroy it with everything she could get her hands on. She started by breaking the windows, then attacked the metal. So furious, the young woman climbed on the roof of the car to deform it, all under the stunned eyes of passers-by. By doing this, she officially signed the end of her marriage, since I doubt very much that he will forgive her for her crime. But at least she was able to take her revenge as she wished. She left without a husband but with all her dignity. In Germany, this driver was driving his car in the right lane. At the red light, he naturally braked. But at the same time, a fire truck was speeding down the same lane, siren on, so that the cars would let him pass. The driver, who should normally give way and pull over to the left as the other cars did, preferred to stay in the lane, waiting for the green light to come on and preventing the truck from passing. Despite the fire truck's persistent siren and horns, the stubborn driver refused to yield the right of way. It was only when the other cars backed up that the truck was able to make its way through the line. As a result, the driver who was filmed by the street surveillance camera left with the title of the world's stupidest driver. Let's hope that when he sees his video making the rounds, he'll learn that fire trucks always have the right of way. One morning in 2016, a man named Ryan Favreau was walking down a street in Toronto. At one point, he felt like having a coffee and decided to go into a store that serves coffee to go, when he was stopped by a woman coming out of the same store who was quietly getting into her car with 2 cups in her hand. The young woman was parked in a handicapped spot, which annoyed Ryan since she was perfectly able-bodied. He then addressed the woman by asking her ironically if she was disabled, to which the driver replied no while continuing on her way. Ryan continued to provoke her by asking her several times what made her so special that she parked in a disabled spot. Very offended, the young woman pretends to ignore him, but facing the persistence of her interlocutor, she gets carried away and breaks down. Ryan, who at the same time had a camera in his hands, was hit in the face by the 2 hot coffees that the woman was holding. This reaction quickly made the rounds on the internet, even prompting a spokesperson for the Toronto police, Mark Pugash, to react. Ryan Favreau decided not to press charges against the young woman, who nevertheless received a visit from the authorities for a little reminder. Ryan indeed ended up with a scalded face and neck, but he managed to keep order in his own way. In a village in England, a young man was walking around, when he noticed a car parked in front of a house. He had the idea of stealing it since the street was empty and no one could see him. He grabbed a brick from the ground and threw it at the window of the car. Unluckily, the brick hit the metal sheet, bounced back, and hit him directly in the face. The thief receives the blow and writhes in pain, before going back on his way a few moments later, empty-handed, with a blown nose, and having left the owner of the car a nice piece of evidence that will help him find him. Next time, he'll think of arming himself with an American soccer helmet. He'll be less hurt and will be able to pass incognito. This salesman is a man with a very special sense of humor. Working in a car dealership, he is known for his eccentric and rather singular techniques of presenting the cars he sells. One day, while he was with interested customers, the salesman had the idea of giving them a rather shaky demonstration. First, he presented the vehicle. Then when the customer asked him a question about its robustness, the man didn't think twice. He started to open and close the doors violently to prove to his interlocutors that this vehicle is solid. And to be even more convincing, he decided to open the front door, straddle it, and brutally shake the vehicle, all in front of the customer's camera, which was filming him discreetly. He was able to prove that the car is extremely solid, but he could also have broken it and been fired. Too much clowning around. Fortunately, the salesman didn't break the car, but unfortunately, he lost that customer because he ran away. Since then, he has changed his sales tactics and simply answers the questions he is asked. In July 2016, in Layton, Utah, Amanda Houghton, a young American woman, is behind the wheel of her car. She was on her way to the pharmacy to buy medicine for her son, whom she had left home alone. But while trying to go a little too fast, Amanda had a collision with another car. She calls the police, who, once on the scene, begin to doubt Amanda's sobriety. She submits to a blood alcohol test despite herself, as ordered by the police officer. As she does not show any cooperation, the policeman decides to immobilize her, to put her in a state of arrest, and to begin a body search, by maintaining her with handcuffs with the wrists. The situation annoyed Amanda, so much so that she filed a complaint a few days later, accusing the police officer of having searched her too insistently and of having made inappropriate gestures on her chest. A complaint that was unfortunately rejected by the city, who, after checking the video taken by the dashcam, affirmed that the police officer was only applying the usual protocol. So Amanda went home empty-handed, but at least she's warned of what might await her when she gets arrested again. What do you think of these sequences? Were you surprised? Which one did you like the most? Tell us what you think in the comments. Don't forget to give us a like if you liked the video and to activate the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our next videos.